Hey there, podcast listeners. Exciting news. My new audiobook, The Short Book Formula, a financial professional's guide to writing a book in 6 weeks to attract ideal clients, is out now. And the best part, for a limited time, we're offering this audiobook to you for free. Hurry over to www.theshortbookformula.com and claim your copy now. And now, on to our show.
If you're like most financial advisors, you know this feeling. The event is over, guests have gone home, and you're left staring at a $5,000 bill wondering, what did I actually accomplish tonight? You hosted another wine tasting, holiday party, or educational workshop. Your clients seem to enjoy themselves. But can you point to a single new relationship, meaningful referral, or deepened connection? Or was this just another expensive tradition? According to our guest today, the financial services industry has been doing events backwards for decades. While tech companies use events to close million-dollar deals and luxury brands create experiences that mint evangelists, most advisors follow the same tired playbook from 20 years ago. But what if your next event could transform top clients into active advocates who naturally introduce you to their successful friends? Elyse Stoner and Angela York are here to reveal what separates a strategic event from an expensive party.
Welcome to the podcast. I've been looking forward to this discussion for the last several weeks. I know we've been working together with multiple clients in helping them to prepare for their book parties. We've already got feedback from one that the event was amazing. We have another common client that's going to be doing one tonight and then one next week. And fingers crossed that all these events are executed flawlessly. But with that being said, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you. And just to get started, I'd love to have our listeners have a chance to get to know who you are. So what's your background story? How did you get to doing what you do today? And since there's two of you, I will ask Elyse to start out.
So good to see you as always. My background comes from the sports, entertainment, and even higher education event world. None of those worlds do events without reason, without purpose, without marketing value. As I grew up in my career, I thought that's how everybody did it. In 2016, I started a business to help people outside of those fields be more strategic in their events, their event strategy, and even the marketing of their events. And then during the pandemic, Angela and I met and shared this idea of event strategy. Where she came from, that didn't exist. So we've married sort of our two views of the world to be able to help financial advisors and folks in the financial services space really have strategic events that help drive business.
Fantastic. Angela, what is your background?
So my background is actually in the advisor marketing and event space. Pretty much my entire career, I spent almost a decade in-house in an advisory firm, managing their marketing plans, implementing them, executing their events, developing those relationships with COIs, prospects, and clients. In 2008, I branched off and started consulting in that same area for local advisory firms and some wholesaler firms, doing exactly that, implementing their marketing, creating and or implementing their marketing plans and executing their events. And when Elyse and I met and she was talking about strategic events, it was like nothing in the financial services industry for events is strategic. It was a light bulb aha moment, being able to integrate strategic event planning into the financial services industry. It really makes a difference on the success of the event, the relationship you build with your client, and the success of your firm, the increase in the AUM long-term.
Help me understand better just that difference between strategic and non-strategic. I'd love to maybe, to the extent possible, kind of contrast that. What is in a strategic advisor event versus what most advisors doing? What are they getting wrong?
As Angela talked about, what we were finding is, and we are finding, that advisors host events because of any number of reasons. I saw somebody else do it. Somebody told me I should do it. And then they do it. And literally, it's on my checklist. I check it off. I move forward. A strategic event is not unlike these pictures that you see over our shoulders with the rocks in the stream. A strategic event is that rock. The stream is either your marketing or your client experience journey. And by having that rock in the stream, you can direct the flow of where that experience is going to go. It's a strategy. It's based on information. We like to say a good strategic event is based on your business goals and has event goals of its own to be able to determine success. How many times have you talked to people and you go, hey, how was your event?
And that's the question, right? I literally was at an event recently for a client of mine. It was a book launch party. And I asked that proverbial question, what'd you think? Was it successful? And the immediate response, and this was at the same night of the event, because from my vantage point, it was successful, meaning that there was a room filled with his ideal existing clients. It was a book party. Everyone was having fun. We had a photographer. They were taking pictures. To me, by all markers, it's like this was a successful event. What he's really saying is that, is this going to drive revenue? And there's I think a gap where you're not going to drive revenue that night. And so it's hard to measure from that perspective. And so what is the proper frame for an advisor to look at that? Are they measuring, how should they measure return on investment? Or is there a better way to measure the event?
We always say, if you're trying to measure ROI of an event, you will always lose. Our philosophy is measuring what we call ROM, return on the moment, that event. What are the goals that you have for that event as it pertains to the stream? And that's how you measure success. Did I have my top clients in the room? We talk a lot about what we call event personality. We want this to be a fun, celebratory event. Okay, were people having a good time? Did you feel celebrated? Did they feel celebrated? Did you have 5 fun, interesting activities that people could do? That would be how you would measure success, not people came, they ate my food, nobody got food poisoning, they all left, they all made it home safely. Those could be goals too,
Sure.
but
Not the reason to put the event on.
It's a mindset that is developed while you're planning the event. So the example you just gave, Paul, it was clear that advisor didn't have goals because they couldn't speak to if it was successful or not. From your vantage point, you look at what we look at is, okay, top clients were in the room, food was good, it was a full room, there were conversations, you had goals in your head. So that's one of the first places we start is looking at the business objectives. And in this case, the book objectives and long-term planning, as well as the book launch party objectives. And then that all funnels into the event logistics and the clients that we've worked on with you. Again, that was our first question. And they had that mindset shift that, okay, I want to have a fun event. And that is a great goal. And so let's build in a few logistics that amplify fun. So at the end of the event, which is in the next week or two, that's going to be the question. Did everybody have fun? And was it a success? The response should be yes, everybody had fun. The goal was achieved. And of course, there are other goals, but it really, along with several other things that have to be planned in the event, that's where you start. And then you have a benchmark to measure the success of the event.
part of that too is the event marketing. Big proponent of having the goals setting into your logistics. But if that is also when you know what your event goals are, you can communicate those in the event marketing, in your invitations, in your save the date. We highly recommend, again, the difference between a strategic event and a event is that there is a marketing cadence. There's a communication cadence that happens between the time that somebody says, yes, I'm going to come, and that actual event. And it's everything from, again, logistics. This is where you should park. This is what you should wear. This is the vibe. Here's a sample of the playlist. Get people primed and excited and ready. So when they get there, they're ready to hit the ground and have fun or do the thing that you have set them up to do.
There's a good example from one of our mutual clients that we worked with a couple of weeks ago. And we had this exact conversation with them to integrate some of the tone, the theme, the fun, the celebratory feel that she wanted from the event. And in her confirmation email, the book itself has a unique branding color. There was pink on the back of the book because that ties into her branding. She put in the confirmation email, if you're so inclined, wear your favorite color of pink. And they did. Women and men both showed up in pink, and it was a very pink affair, and it just tied it all together. And that, from the attendee standpoint, it just makes it fun and memorable. Oh my gosh, everybody was in pink. Oh my gosh, that was cool. And then there was photos. So all of that, and it was a little shift, just a little one. And it just made a big impact.
Just before we started recording, you were sharing a shared client that we have, and you shared something with me fascinating, which was that he had, I believe it was 44 people attend his event, and only one person was a no-show. I think that's phenomenal. If you can achieve that somewhat consistently when you put an event, because I think that's probably one of the biggest fears. I don't want to go and put all this time, energy, and effort into something, and then will they show up or not? One question is, when should you start planning this? How far out? And let's maybe use a book party for the example. And how do you maximize attendance? Because that's probably one of the biggest worries that people have.
For a typical event, an in-person event, we recommend 8 weeks to start the planning. For book launch, I actually like to recommend a little bit longer and almost think of it while you're developing the book, while it's being published. And again, you don't have to be sending save the dates out 6 months in advance, but those little nuances that are in the book while you're writing them that you want to convey to the readers and your clients, jot them down. Certain saying, there's one of the launch parties, there were certain quotes on being intentional, and those quotes ended up showing up at the party in frames. The more time, the better. 8 weeks, definitely. But if for the book launch, you have that flexibility to start planning it and formulating some of the details, you can do that while you're publishing it and writing it. And then once we do getting the venue and starting to save the dates, at least 8 weeks.
Say in this example, a person has 100 plus 200 clients per se, and it's a book party. What's the goal? How would you advise? What would you suggest the goal would be? And of course, the advisor has their opinion, but what would be the outcome that you would want in terms of how many people am I inviting? Am I inviting A-level clients? Am I inviting A, Bs, and Cs? Am I looking to get prospects to attend? From your experience, what do you see as the most successful when it comes to a book party?
I think for the book launch party, I don't love prospects there, because if the goal again is celebrating this moment of, I've published this book, like my heart, blood, sweat, tears, everything have gone into this. I want to celebrate it with you, my clients. It raises that selectivity bar, if you will. I'll let Angela in a second talk about the ABC part of it. But I think the idea of who do you want in that room? And when you're qualifying them, is it people I want to celebrate with? Is it people I know who are connected? So it could be A's and B's and COIs. So that again, the idea of they're going to talk about, I went to this cool book party. And then we also have some follow-up tips on how you can help those people not only get the word out, but actually get your book out as an event follow-up.
You want to look at the goals, and we talked about that a little while ago. I agree that you really want to celebrate this with your clients. And I would open it up to your A's, your B's, and your C's, because your C's very well could become B's and A's depending on their situation down the road, family, inheritance, whatever it might be. So don't exclude them. They're clients, and you want them to feel loved and part of the celebration. I would put an asterisk on the prospects. If there are prospects that are very warm and very likely to turn into clients, the positioning could be, they may know about the book writing, because if you're doing this well enough in advance, there might be a coming soon website or coming soon on your signature. So people should know about the book. You could personally invite them because you know that they are progressing towards becoming a client, having a book launch party for our clients. And we're celebrating the launch of the book, and we would love for you to attend. That actually could be a very strong moment in that relationship. Just prospects that you really haven't had those continuous conversations. No, I would not. That's a whole nother campaign on the book launch and the discussion. But for the book launch party, clients, ABCs, ABCs, definitely COIs that you have those strong relationships with, because again, your vision could be the COI has a client, you've just given them 5 books and they're handing it out to their clients. So it becomes a very natural referring tool.
Yep.
So definitely keep all those in mind. Of course, every advisor is different. So perhaps it is a very small, intimate event with only A clients, but to really answer that question globally, A's, B's, C's, top prospects, and COIs.
This is clarifying for me because it's, I guess, where I started thinking about this is that what's the purpose of a book, and all the marketing that it extends from it was to get new clients. And so I guess in my own thinking, if a person can bring a prospect, that's a good goal to have. But I guess when I'm listening to you talk, it's actually, that's where being clear about your goals up front is important, because maybe that's not the goal. And I like how you define that, is that it is that I call this the inner circle soft launch in my book, Bookmarking for Financial Advisors. And so this really aligns with that, which is you want to engage those top people, the people that are already your best clients or advocates, and you want to really use this as a means to really turn them into what I describe as active advocates. And so the messaging, I think, needs to be, as you're saying, needs to be consistent. It's, hey, this is an event for my clients, or this is an event for my top clients. And of course, COIs can naturally fit in there. But then I like what you said. If it is a prospect, it's not that you can't say, no, you can't attend, but you still want to maintain that this is an exclusive event
Right.
for my best clients. So I think that just the messaging is very congruent. I would
Okay.
add to that, and this might be an opportunity to expand upon that, because I remember one of the consulting calls that you guys did with a client of mine is that in this case, like, I'm going to be going to another book party and of a client of mine. I support them, obviously. I have to travel to get there. So it's a question, okay, do I want to jump on the plane and go or not? And as I was thinking about that, part of my own reasoning was, well, I don't want to go alone, right? Because if I go alone, I'm going to be uncomfortable, and then I'm going to really enjoy it. Probably not. And then it's, I don't want to go. But then my brother, who also knows this client, I asked him, it's like, would you go with me? And he's like, yeah, I'll go. So it's like, great. Now we're going to go. We're going to have fun. I don't need to worry about, is this worth my time? Am I going to have fun, etc. Would that be an exception? Would it be like my best clients and someone that you want to bring with you and have fun, not for the purpose of selling them per se, but
Yep.
just to, that could almost happen organically.
And that's exactly where I was when you were talking. I had that aha moment, and I let you continue on. And that's exactly it. So you have what I had mentioned before, the asterisk of your prospects, the ones that that are very warm and likely to become clients, and you want to invite them to this exclusive event. Then you have the flip side, which is what you just said, your top clients that you know might be coming by themselves. You can personally extend, hey, Paul, we really would love you to come. And if there's anybody you'd love to bring with you, they are more than welcome. So that needs to be very strategic and very well thought out, and a personal invitation. It's not on the main invitation, everybody's welcome. Everybody can bring a friend, put it up in your HOA bulletin board, all can come. It's not like that. It's very select, because then that made you, the client or the COI, feel, okay, I'm going to come. I want to support them. And you can do that again individually when you see they have an RSVP, when you know that they are single, when you just even want to extend an invitation. So let's say you have a top client and they have adult children, and maybe you've met them once or twice before, or you want to meet them. It could be a phone call going, Mary and Joe, I'm really glad you're attending the book launch. Would you like to bring Kathy and her husband? They are more than welcome. It will be a really fun event, and we'd love to have you all celebrate with us.
I really like where this conversation is going, and I think that anyone listening should really make notes of this. It's your best clients, it's the COIs, it's maybe some very warm prospects that you want to selectively invite. And it's also making the guest feel comfortable and more wanting to come by saying, hey, if there's someone that you want to bring with you, because we're going to have fun here. This isn't a sales thing. This is to have fun. Then they're more likely to come. This leads naturally into, okay, the content of the event. And let's try to keep it around the frame of the book party, because it's like part of the decision is, I guess if it's an existing client, you're not too worried about getting sold to. If I'm going to invite someone, then it's like, I don't want them to get sold to. So what should the content be for a book party? Is someone talking? Are they mingling? Are they having fun? What are some of the key things that a book launch party event should be focused in on in terms of the event itself?
We love the idea again of that event personality of being celebration and whatever. And this is where we work with our clients, right? It's a pretty big word. So we dig into what does that mean? What does that mean to them? What does that mean to their clients? And also intertwining concepts or design of the book into that celebration. It's almost going to be easier to tell you what it shouldn't be. You don't need to read your book. Like, you don't need to have a book reading. You don't need to have I'm going to send the book out ahead of time and we're going to book club it. It doesn't necessarily need to be a totally structured, at 8:05, we're doing this. And at 8:10, we're doing this. We do like to have a celebratory moment, a toast, a heartfelt welcome from the author, and what it means for you to have written this book, what it means to you to have these people here to celebrate with you, some sort of thank you moment.
Yeah. And that's a moment. That's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's not like a 30-minute, 60-minute speech. It's a moment.
Exactly. And again, we can help people think about what's in your book and how do you extrapolate themes into that. One of the other things, it doesn't need to be expensive. Event personality, and how do you wind all of that together?
When you say expensive, so is that by, say, for example, having it at your office versus having it at a restaurant? What are your thoughts in terms of venue?
It's different for everybody.
Okay.
If it's a small, intimate group that you want to have, and you've got a really cool atrium space at your office, great. We had a client, it wasn't a book launch, but she hosted an event at the community center in her apartment complex. So it doesn't have to be restaurant, hotel. It doesn't have to be office. There's a lot kind of going on in the middle. That's where we help people really think through what that looks like, not only from a budget point of view, what's the message that you're trying to convey with this event that you're hosting?
I think that's a really important statement. What's the message you're trying to convey with the event and the book itself? And we like to take a step back and get to know the advisor's personality as well, because the advisor's personality fueled the content of the book. And not every advisor or person has that very, let's have fun, let's be celebratory. And we want it to be comfortable for the advisor. And then that will naturally open up the ideas for where to have it. And then cost will fall into that. If it does work and you do want to have it at a restaurant, maybe it's not full dinner. Maybe it's light appetizers. If you're doing it at the office or community center, or I think one of them was at a wine tasting, maybe then have it catered or have it a bartender, because you're not spending the room rental fees or some of those extra fees. And just as a side note, for all events in general, the wedding venues, the hotels, the country clubs, they tend to be on the higher side because they have the room fee and the AV fee and it's like the airline tiers. You need to have an extra fee to the restroom or breathe. So yes, there are tips in general for event planning on where you can keep the costs down. And then it also depends on, are you doing a small intimate event? And then you can splurge a little bit. We also like to, and this is a whole separate conversation, but if you involve your wholesalers, they tend to have marketing support budgets, and that can offset some of your cost as well.
So in one of the events that I recently attended, again, I thought from my perspective, I thought it was great. To me, what the goals, at least in my own mind, were, which was 50 plus people. It was at a restaurant. The whole thing was busy the whole time for 2 hours from beginning to end. People were having fun. People were standing, they were mingling. There was food being catered. There was alcohol being served. We brought in a photographer, and for an hour of the event, and the whole time the photographer's following around the advisor taking photos. And so you just observing that, wow, you're like a celebrity. And it's not just an ego thing, but it's like, that's how you would ideally want your best clients and COIs and prospects to see you, is you actually are an important person. So it just really captured that moment. And as I was thinking about it, I was thinking, okay, what would be the next level of this? How can you take that concept and this event and this opportunity to then extend it out to what might be some other goals, which of course are, how does this maybe empower my best clients to bring in more introductions and referrals, not necessarily at the point of the event, but downstream, down the road. And in one of our recent calls with another client, you had some really, I thought, clever ideas about how to take advantage of a photographer in the event setting and the book setting. Could you share, I think it was probably with Laura, who was the person we were talking to, but can you share some of those ideas about what are some of those really smart, clever ways to maximize the event when it comes from whether it's photography? And then that could also lead into what's the follow up, right? Is the event, is it done and we're like go home with and hopefully not too much of a hangover? Or what are the next steps?
A photographer can really add different levels of celebration to the event if you plan it ahead of time. So a couple of examples would be you hire a photographer, you have what they call a step and repeat, those big banners behind you, and you can put a copy of the book and the logo. That's the common one we like, and it repeats on this banner. And then you have an area where photos are taken. And to make it exclusive, we recommended you'd have it roped off, almost like a red carpet feel.
Yeah.
So the author is there taking photos with guests. And then we like to recommend having a list in your head or even on a little piece of paper of your top clients or COIs that you know are going to be there, and make sure you get those shots and create a shot list for the photographer ahead of time. So it's a really good strategic way to integrate a photographer. And then you take those photos and you can repurpose them in, of course, your follow-up emails, but you can also do down the road after the event, you can create a program where the photo of you, the author, the advisor, and the client are on a card. And then that message on the inside of the card is directed towards a friend of the client or attendee, and that will accompany a copy of the book. I had the privilege of meeting an author or being with the author at their book launch party. This book talks about XYZ. I'd love for you to have a copy and read it. Again, a very non-salesy way to get the book into more hands. So then going back to the logistics of a photographer.
Let me just underscore that for a second, because I want to make sure that's fully fleshed out. You have a shot list, you said, of the, maybe not everybody, but at least some of the key people that you want to make sure you capture a photograph in a very specific spot of them and you together, maybe with the book, but something that is intentional. And the idea there is that down the road, you now turn that into some sort of card or some sort of marketing collateral that's elegant that you can then give to that client and ask, encourage, whatever the word is, them to be able to then use that as well as your book as a tool to then make introductions. And what I love about that from a psychological standpoint, so I love the psychology of persuasion and influence and marketing, and it's the person's becoming that much more invested without realizing it. And maybe they realize it, but it's not go share my book with your top 5 friends. It's no, this is a very elegant way to bring them naturally into your world. And I would say create some intrinsic motivation on their behalf where they actually want to do it, or at the minimum, they feel comfortable doing it. Because I say this about writing a book. It's like nobody wants to be sold to, and nobody wants to say, hey, you should go work with my advisor. So I didn't ask you, what do you want? But it's a different thing when you say, hey, my advisor just wrote a book. It's actually really compelling. You should read it. You should listen to it. That's a much different thing, because when you're an author, you have elevated status, or at least elevated perceived status. And so now it's different when you're introducing someone who has that elevated status. Oh, friends with this person. Oh, wow, you're special too. So there's this transfer of feeling special. And so the photography there just really naturally falls into that psychology.
Exactly. And a spin on that, because I do love that. And the fact that it's a good quality photograph versus, hey, it's selfie time. But there is some value in that. And one of our favorite things to do is, so where that step and repeat is when the author is not hanging out there for the shot list, is encouraging people to take pictures in front of that. And one of the tips that we love is to have somebody standing there. I find anybody, a 12 to 15-year-old is usually pretty good. And what is going to happen is Angela and I walk up to that step and repeat and maybe aren't so good at selfies, but there's this person who's standing there who says, hey, give me your camera and I'll take your picture for you. And then they have it on. It's on their phone, and you could get into hashtags if you're so inclined, or just simply hey, here we are at this event. How fun was this? It's that subliminal piece, but it's actually a decent picture.
And we say we have the recommendation of a 12 to 15-year-old. It can certainly be a staff member as well. We want every team member to have a role, but usually they are doing other roles. And if there happens to be a family member in the team that is 12 to 15 or college age, they're great and they're very inexpensive or sometimes free. And so they can, and literally they're so great on their phones. It's just in their nature. They can help people take that photo and they're usually pretty good at it. And that's a pretty low cost way to get extra photos. You can have a poster or a sign with hashtags. You can have a QR code that they can upload it into a collective site where you can access them. There's lots of different ways to utilize those photos. I know some people might be thinking photographer, that's expensive. A regular photographer that's taking pictures. There are ways to get around that expense. Student photographers are great. Home-based mompreneurs, they're great. Yep. Again, they're charging the fee, but they're not charging the wedding fees.
Yeah, I'm going to object because if you're doing a book party and you're fretting about the cost of photographer, we need to talk. Just in the time that we have, I've gained from this conversation, I've gained clarity, especially around goals. So this has been just helpful. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been helpful for me. I can imagine someone listening to this who's writing their book and thinking about, okay, what do I do with this book and how do I make a big splash? I believe that this conversation so far has been helpful. One of the things I'd like to say is that we've created, I would say, essentially a strategic relationship where we're going to be, for our clients that are looking to do book party launch, we're going to be encouraging them to work with you guys to help make sure that it's a success. And so just help our audience understand, what is it that you do, from whether it's a consulting side to a full boots on the ground type thing? What's that range? What do you typically do? Because I can imagine a lot of the people that we work with, they have people on their team. They have a marketing director. They might have someone on the team that handles events. How do you add on to that from a consulting role to how do you potentially do the full thing?
So the consulting role is a lot like this conversation. We have certain questions that we ask when we're on the line. Again, it doesn't have to all be in person. We can obviously do this virtually. The whole idea of, we know the questions to ask to take this in a strategic manner. So we work with people as consultants. That's the top level, the first foremost. If they have a team, we can consult with that team in the logistics space so that the author comes for the big conversations. And then we're working on logistics and messaging and all of those sorts of things with the team. If they don't have a full-time dedicated team, we can also help venue ideas, copywriting, those pieces of the puzzle. So there's lots of different ways that we can work with authors, advisors on making those events strategic and a stepping stone in the client journey.
Very cool. And for the record, you also work with events more broadly. I know the focus of our conversation has been around a book launch, but you do, for someone listening to this and they have like other events in mind, you do and can work with people more broadly. Angela, just in the time we have, any final words of wisdom in terms of book events or book parties?
I think if there's one takeaway from this is look at the book launch as a stepping stone to the relationships with your clients and your COIs and even your top level prospects. It's not just a check off the box. I wrote a book, I had a party. You use it as, for those that can see our backgrounds, a rock in that stream that really can help control your client's journey. So look at that as really opening up the conversations with your clients, the next steps to being a thought leader and using the book to do that. So don't just think of it as a one and done.
Question came to my mind, and do you ever encourage people to invite media to the events, or is that separate for the book party?
They can, absolutely. It really depends, though, going back to the goals of the advisor. So you have one shot at a book launch party and you've got goals for that party. If the goal is to also have reach into the community, it wouldn't hurt to invite select press. Here it's the Orange County Business Journal. And again, you can use that down the road in your follow-up and in your marketing. Be very strategic about it. You're not going to go inviting the national news.
Yes, But I think there's other ways to engage, whether it's the Orange County Business Journal or the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Photos or videos from your launch party could be a great tool in trying to engage those media sources.
Just to wrap things up, I hope a listener who's with us at this point really got value from this. I do this for a living, and I've been on multiple calls with you guys, and I'm still getting value. Imagine where you are today in terms of your thoughts about this is the event and this is what I'm going to do, which we'll say is good. And then let's imagine how much better and excellent it can be for all the effort and time that you put into writing the book, publishing the book, and going forward, all the goals that you have in mind in terms of leveraging it. So just I've found a lot of value in working with you guys as a sounding board. I know I've brought you in for a couple clients. You said 6 to 8 weeks. I brought you in a week or two to go, but you provided excellent value. I got feedback from my clients. They really appreciated and got value from the calls. The results that we're seeing as these events unfold are amazing. And if you're looking to do a book launch party, I think it's definitely worth having a conversation with Elyse and Angela just to see how they can help you make sure it's not just a good event, but it's an excellent event. Any final words about where people can find you, or any other thoughts that are on your mind before we wrap up?
People can find us. Our website is event-advisors. Remember, there's two of us, .net. And you can find our services. You can find some articles that we've written. We do a bi-weekly newsletter called Valuable Views that not only talks about a lot of the things we've talked about today. What should your email subject look like? Everything that's related to making your event strategic.
All right. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed the conversation. I've gotten value from it. And I believe that if our audience is with us at this point, they're like taking notes and ready to reach out to you guys. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.